You done now?
This is more deadly than the mail. You like Kipling, Miss Scarlett?
Sure, I'll eat anything.
Shark's fin soup, madame.
So is this for our host?
No, sir, for the seventh guest, Mr. Boddy.
I thought Mr. Body was our host. So who is our host, Mr. Wadsworth?
Well, I'm going to start while it's still hot.
Oh, now shouldn't we wait for the other guests?
I will keep something warm for him.
What did you have in mind, dear?
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Clue the Movie Podcast, where we break down the 1985 cult classic Clue the Movie 1 minute at a time. My name is Brad Gilmore, joined as always by Mr. Jeff Smith, who's just another Jeff Smith, but he happened to also do a Clue documentary about this movie that we're watching.
Someone had to.
Somebody had to. Might as well have been you. We're talking about minute 12, which picks up where Colonel Mustard was in the middle of saying something after we got cut off in minute 11, and it ends in silence as Yvette and Wadsworth retreat to the kitchen after some slurping of soups. Okay, first thing, what stands out to you first?
The movie is definitely taking its time for a very, very silly joke of them just slurping soup and being annoying. And I would love to go back and ask the writer, Jonathan Lynn, what's your fascination with soup slurping? Because it really has nothing to do with anything. It's just we just stop the movie to watch two people slurp soup, and it drives Mrs. Peacock crazy to the point where she is about to break the silence. But a lot of sinister looks again, which is great. I don't know. They say, is this the seat for our host? And he says, no, that's for the seventh guest, Mr. Body. And they say, I thought Mr. Body was our host, and everybody chimes in with, so did I. But the letter they get later does not mention Mr. Body by name. So they must, in their past, from their blackmail, have known the name Mr. Body.
Either they knew the name, or it's not in the letter, right? No, it's not in the letter.
No, it's signed a friend. When they get the invitation.
So how do they know the name Mr. Body? Very interesting. I want to break that down. Again, we start off with Colonel Mustard talking about how the female is the more, as he said, the more dominant in the species.
The more deadly than the male.
Yes.
They're just doing they're one-upping each other on murderous, pompous quotes.
Well, Alfred Lord Tennyson was who Wadsworth was quoting. And just according to the old Google machine, he won the Chancellor's Gold Medal and died in the late 19th century in the UK. He was best known for the Charge of the Light Brigade and was the first Baron Tennyson, who was just an English poet. So look at that, during Queen Victoria's reign. So you learned a little something there. And then...
not to insult the audience, you all knew that, but just as a reminder, this is... who he's quoting.
And then Colonel Mustard is quoting, he says, I prefer Kipling myself. And that is apparently Rudyard Kipling, who was an English novelist, short story writer, poet, and journalist, born in British India. And he was most known for The Man Who Would Be King. So there you have it.
He's quoting Kipling and then asks Miss Scarlett, do you like Kipling? As he's offering food. And she thinks he's referring to food.
Well, yeah.
Do you like Kipling as he's handing the tray over? And she says, sure, I'll eat anything.
Sure, I'll eat anything. So again, we're showing that Colonel Mustard maybe a little bit more, I don't know if intelligence is the right word. But
no, I think it's the exact opposite. In fact, there's a Martin Mull quote that says, I wish I could remember exactly, but he talks about when he was making Clue, because he went on Letterman right after Clue came out, and because Martin Mull was on David Letterman a lot. He was a very frequent guest, and he talks about how Colonel Mustard is. I wish I could remember the quote now, but basically he's dumb. He's just dumb. So it would make sense that he probably somewhere heard this quote, and it really doesn't apply to anything other than he mentioned die, and now he knows a quote about danger, and he just happens to know it's Kipling, but it doesn't apply to anything that's happening. And Miss Scarlet, to her credit, basically just shoots him down like, "You're not that smart."
Well, is that how we take it? Is that how we take it? Because
that's how I take it. She's like, I mean, I think she knows what he's doing, but Miss Scarlet is just so like she takes control of everything that she just changes. It probably makes him wonder: is Kipling the food? He might. He did because he doesn't.
So you're saying he was being fake smart?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. I think he heard a quote once. He thought he would impress everybody, including the attractive lady sitting next to him, and it did not work.
Yeah, and I love her line though. Is you like Kipling, Miss Scarlet? Sure, I'll eat anything. and to me, it's like here's one guy feigning this refined sensibility of being a gentleman. And do you prefer Kipling or do you like the other guy? And she goes, yeah, I'll eat anything. Which just shows that, again, I don't know if that was meant to show that she's unrefined, but also a little bit more, like you said, more aware of whom she is and the place that she finds herself.
Yeah, and she kind of almost she declasses it in a classy way.
Yeah.
Just because she owns it. Miss Scarlet owns. She has even when she later will to tell everybody, what she's being blackmailed for. She's not ashamed by any of it. I'm quite curious why she's paying the blackmail in the first place. Because, depends on which ending you have.
Yeah,
yeah. If it's the first ending, you know why. But she shouldn't be paying blackmail in the other two.
No, it is interesting that she finds herself there. So again, let's go back to Mr. Body, because Mr. Body, everyone assumes is the host, the seventh seat. Now, as far as the game goes, Mr. Body in the board game is the dead person.
Yeah.
So
who is the host? Yeah.
Who is the host? And when asked, well, if Mr. Body's not our host, then who is? Wadsworth kind of just very.
It goes back to the word I used for him in the last episode. He's just kind of being. Well, I'll say this time so we don't have alarms go off. But
he's just kind of being
that.
There you go.
Yeah.
But he also gives like a grin, like, yeah, I know way more than you. It's not time for you to know this yet.
Yeah.
But here's a question, Jeff Smith: if Mr. Body isn't the host, right?
Yeah.
Then who is?
Wadsworth is the host.
Right.
Because he's the one, he'll later say, sent out the invitations.
Right.
And he sent out one to Mr. Body as well, but his invitation is not the same as everybody else's. Because they'll say, I received a similar letter. And then Mr. Body goes, I also received a letter in his fake voice.
Yeah.
And then he says, was yours the same as everybody else's? And he goes, no. It was me. I did the voice of Mr. Body.
You did?
Yeah, back when I was 10 or 9, probably when it came out. Wadsworth sent all the invitations out. So there is no host, really. Everyone got invited. And that's why Mr. Body gets there late. There is no host.
Right. Because why wouldn't the host already be there? Yeah,
it's his house, but it's not. This house belonged to a friend of mine. I've known about it all along.
Yeah. It's interesting as this plays out. The shark fin soup is mentioned.
Shark fin soup, madame, yes.
Shark fin soup, madame, which we'll learn is significant, sort of, as far as it gives us a clue.
I mean, it's just weird. It's just weird food that's coming up. I mean, I didn't understand what she said for years when she goes shark fin soup, and I had no idea what Colleen Camp as Yvette said until probably my 30th year. The accent was so thick, and shark fin soup was not on my radar, but that's what it is. It's shark fin soup, and then something else is coming up that Mrs. Peacock really enjoys.
Yes, and we're going to talk about that again. We see the perviness of Professor Plum as Yvette goes to deliver, to serve the soup. She kind of bends down close to Miss Scarlet, and literally there is nothing else going on in the world than the gaze of Professor Plum at Yvette.
Yeah.
Another note. And to go back to it for a second, when Colonel Mustard says the thing about the female is the more killer of the species, or whatever the exact quote is.
Deadlier than the male, yeah.
Deadlier than the male. The camera cuts right to Miss White.
Mrs. White, and she gives a guilty look. It's great.
Yeah. So
that's definitely a shot where on second viewing it makes you chuckle because you know exactly why it cut to Mrs. White. That was definitely on purpose.
as far as the slurping of the soup, did you cover that with Jonathan Lynn? Did you ask him?
No, like I said, I wish I had because it's so random that it's probably just something that maybe in his life bugs him or he finds amusing. I wish I had. I mean, I think I've said in past episodes, I would love to go back and re-interview everybody again because I only had like 45 minutes to an hour with all of them, and I was pretty generic and general with the topics, and I would love I can only imagine what it'd be like to sit down with them and watch a minute by minute of the movie and go, okay,
Stop.
shark fin soup. Why?
Yeah.
Tell me now.
The slurping of the soup is I think, more in line with the poop joke side of the humor, right?
It's silly. It's very silly.
Very silly.
And it's just uncomfortable. It pushes Mrs. Peacock to have her little rant that she's about to have. It's just obvious they have nothing to talk about. They don't know each other, and just the sound of soup being slurped, it's just too much for some people. And I would probably it would probably bother me too.
Look at them there. They're slurping the soup. What are they doing? They're slurping it. Why are they slurping the soup? Now you say it's to the silliness, and then we get the Peacock rant here in a moment. But at dinner, you've been to like a dinner party or something like, or a gathering, a social gathering where you don't really know a lot of people. There are these great awkward moments always where it's like, oh, so what do you do? Oh, okay, yeah. Weather's crazy, right? Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so how do you know Steven? You know?
Right.
And
okay, all right, cool.
and we move on.
Yes.
As far as left in this minute, again, there was a lot of silence and a lot of looks from the house guests to Mrs. White and Professor Plum at the time. And then again, we see the cook. We see Yvette and Wadsworth retreat into the kitchen because we know a delicacy is about to come. Still, it's very interesting that we are
very quick too. Boy, they don't have time to eat that soup.
No, the courses in this one go fast.
They're not there to eat.
Fast. We are getting close to meeting Mr. Body here in a minute or two.
Yeah.
I feel like that would have been, when he said Mr. Body isn't our host, that would have been the ultimate red flag for me. I'd have been like, okay, yeah, we might want to get the hell out of here.
Yeah, probably also when they said, so who's the host? And he just snickers at them, you know, like, you know what?
Are we meant to believe, though, by that? Are we meant to believe that there is another person? Or like that Wadsworth is not telling us who the host, like the host shall reveal himself at some moment, and we're not sure exactly.
He does say that later, so yes. But again, I think it's it's probably more for the audience than anything else. It's just for all of us to feel those cliche murder mystery. You don't get to know just yet. Everybody hang on.
Yeah, it's probably for me a few viewings in, because again, I rented this movie for the first time at Hollywood Video on VHS, and I think that I watched it 2 or 3 times that during that rental period. And I don't think I ever caught on to the fact that Mr. Body shows you how much I was listening, that Mr. Body wasn't the host. Because, I mean, as soon as he walks in, you just assume this is the villain of the story.
Right. Well, I mean,
To quote Michael Rosenbaum. Yeah.
Yeah, he really is. When he walks in, he says, "What are they all doing here?" That's coming up. We always do this. I always want to jump to the next minute because I'm excited for what's coming.
Well, you know what? I think that we can. I think this is a good time to go to the next minute.
Right.
And we'll jump into what we're about to get, an epic moment of dialogue.
Eileen Brennan, she's coming up.
From Academy Award nominee Eileen Brennan. Like on Clue the Movie Podcast, cluedoc.com. That's Jeff Smith, Brad Gilmore, Clue the Movie Podcast, and we'll be back with minute lucky number 13 on Clue the Movie Podcast.
Oh, Brian, what have you done?